Welcome to the Grey Cat. If you are watching this, I suspect you are familiar with Remix, and you probably heard that there was the first version of the framework, and there is Remix V2, which is the current version at the moment. And about a year ago, developers published a blog post where they told us that the next step for Remix would be called React Router v7, and we would have to upgrade to React Router. Finally, we are provided with some clear steps about how to do that. Before actually doing the migration, we have to adopt the future flags. This video will be about the future flags and the changes they bring. Today we will be migrating an IndieStack application. I wasn't able to install the default Blues application. Both of them are already deprecated, and Blues somehow is broken, but Indie worked fine, so we'll be trying to migrate the Indie app. By default, it gets installed with the latest version of Remix. Fortunately, upgrading to the latest version of Remix V2 doesn't break anything. There's not much to show, really. You just update the number in your package.json, you run npm install, and you're done. Enabling the feature flags, though, requires more manual work to be done, and it's a very good place to demonstrate it. The Indie app is just perfect for this demo. But before we get there, we need to ensure that two things are in order. First, we need to make sure that we are on node 20 or more, because in the version 20, the native fetch API is available, which is necessary for the latest remix. Second, we need to remove install globals calls if we have any. The install globals util used to introduce the fetch polyfills, and we don't need them anymore. Once you have done that, let's go ahead to adopting the Vite plugin. The IndieStack is still using ESBuild, so now we have a good chance to demonstrate the migration process in the real time. First, let's copy and paste the installation command that is provided in the migration guide. Next, we need to create an empty Vite.config file and paste the initial configuration. Ignored route files may be useful if you keep any other files in the routes folder. The unstable optimized depths flag actually made our production application more stable, so I would recommend having it in any case. Just paste it and have it enabled. Now let's remove the library load component. Vite uses its own library load mechanism, and this component is no longer needed, so navigate to your root TSX and get rid of it. Next, updating the TypeScript config. They provide 4 options that require to be updated. Updating the type option, though, brought me nothing good but not working types. So if it works for you as it is now, and if it breaks for you after the update, I would recommend keeping this as it was. You also need to remove these 2 references from the remix type definition file, and if it turns out to be empty after the removal, you can also remove the file itself as well. If you have any path aliases defined in your TypeScript config, you need to install a special plugin for it to resolve the aliases. It is called Vite tsconfig paths. Just follow the instructions, add the plugin to the Vite config, and enjoy your working imports. The first v3 flag is v3 fetcher persist. The difference is subtle, but let's have a quick demo. You likely know about the useFetcher and useFetcher's hooks. There is a slight difference how they behave when a component with useFetcher unmounts. Previously, if we had a component being unmounted when this component had a useFetcher hook and there was a request in progress, it used to be removed from the useFetchers immediately and the request used to be aborted. With this flag to true, this slightly alters the behavior. With the new behavior, an ongoing request is not immediately removed from the useFetchers list. It waits for the request to finish to resolve, and only then, with a delay, the fetcher is removed. Some applications will find this change useful. The next one is V3 relative splat path. It actually fixes the buggy behavior of relative nested links when you have some paths with wildcards. It might be breaking for some applications that are already using that buggy behavior. Let's have a quick demo to see what has changed. First, let's see how it works when the flag is disabled. We have 3 dashboard files in the routes folder. The first one is the index, just an index page. The second one is the wrapper, which has some outlet. And the third one is actual dashboard.$, which has a placeholder in the URL. Here we are at the dashboard/team/settings page, and we have some interactive examples there. We have a relative link to the current page. We have a relative link to the parent page, which should be teams apparently. And we have a relative link to /team, which intuitively should lead to team/team. In reality, the first link leads to dashboard, which is 2 levels above. The second link also leads to dashboard, even though it should be only 1 level above. And the third link leads to dashboard/team, which is also confusing. Let's enable the flag and see what changes. The first link leads to the current page, which is kind of expected after the fix. The second link leads to dashboard again, which is weird. I expected it to lead to teams instead, dashboard/teams. And the third link leads also to dashboard/team, which is also weird. It seems like a bug to me, and I hope they will fix it, because now the fix is visible only on the first link, but the other two still demonstrate a buggy behavior. Anyway, if you use relative links in your application, be aware of this flag. It might break something. The third flag is V3 throw abort reason. You probably didn't know that, but if a user navigates away before the request is fulfilled, there is a special kind of error that is thrown on the server side. It used to be reported in one way, showing this error query call abort message, but now it throws request.signal.reason instead. And you will only notice the difference if you have a custom handle error handler exported from your entry.server.ts. Let's take a closer look how it works. As usual, for now, let's keep it false. In our entry.server.ts file, I added a separate handle error callback export, which just logs out the error. Next, I prepared a very slow products route, and I put a link to it on the home page. When I click on it, there is one pending request, and not waiting for it to be resolved, I click on the second link. The request gets cancelled, and when I check the node console, I can see this query route call aborted message as specified in the documentation. Now let's set it to true and see what happens next. Everything is exactly the same. We click on the products, then we click on the dashboard. Checking the console now, and we can see that we have an abort error. This operation was aborted. Now we can compare the error name to this value and early return, because this situation doesn't need a necessary treatment. And that's all about the abort reason flag. The lazy route discovery is a feature that developers have been working on for a while. Normally, all the routes available in the application are passed to it in a thing called manifest, and you can inspect this manifest in the console. It's attached to the window object. The overhead became noticeable in the Shopify application when the number of routes became too large. So this flag enables the mechanism of lazy loading the route. If you don't have this flag enabled, you can inspect the manifest object and you can see that all your application routes are available there. But when you enable it and check it again, you can notice that there is much fewer routes available, and each of those routes is linked on the page. When the user navigates somewhere, a new page is rendered and all the links are scanned, the routes that correspond to those links are loaded lazily, and the page loading time is reduced. Overall, this is all a kind of very internal stuff, and it shouldn't really affect your application. Remix wouldn't be Remix if with every major upgrade they wouldn't bring a new major router refactoring. Luckily this time you can opt into the legacy mode and postpone the eventual big refactor. Let's do this in this demo. As usual, let's first enable the flag in the config. Next, let's paste the command to install the new remix route config npm package and create an empty routes.ts file. Now let's open it and paste the default content from the documentation. To verify that it worked, let's start the development server. If the home page is blank and the other pages are not found, we are on the right track. Now we can either go ahead and define our routes in code or install the fsroutes package to use the legacy mode. And since our application uses the file system routes, I think it's going to be much easier to use the fsroutes package for now, and then migrate to the newer one when the time is right. To convert the routes defined on the file system to the newer format, you need to install a package called remix run fsroutes. Then you need to import the flat routes function from this package and export the result of the run, and it's all in the routes.ts. And that should be enough to run the application in a backwards compatible mode. Just run the server, click around and make sure everything is working as before. As for the next steps of the migration, we will cover that in the future videos, hopefully. And the single fetch flag at last. I put it in the end because the final refactoring we'll have to go through is tightly related to this flag. When you have several nested routes with several nested loaders, and when you somehow trigger a full refetch, that results in 3 separate GET HTTP requests. This approach is working, but it can be optimized, and that's exactly what the flag does. With the flag enabled, a single HTTP request will be sent instead of 3, and the data will be received from all 3 loaders in a new format. But enabling the new behavior requires some preparations. First, you need to declare the future interface with a single fetch true for remix run node or any other server package you might use. Then you need to enable the flag as usual. And now you need to refactor all your loaders and actions. If they use the JSON util, you need to remove it. If the JSON call did not use the second argument to override the status code or HTTP headers, you need to return just a plain JavaScript object. If it did use the second argument, then you need to use the new util called data, which has the similar signature. And here it is very important to have both the future interface declared and the flag enabled before starting to use this data thing. Otherwise, you may have some issues with the format and the types. If you do the steps in the right order, it might save you hours of debugging. Finally, let's go over the deprecations that will be removed in React Router 7. I cannot show you how to do that because the Indy template didn't have it. I hope you all know how to remove an npm package. The documentation recommends using the config from one of their remix templates, or you can always come up with your own. The next one is about removing JSON and defer utils. I just showed you how to remove the JSON util, and removing the defer util is not different. You simply keep the promises that are to be resolved in the plain object that you return from the loader, or you use the data util if you need the second argument with headers or status code. The serializeFrom type was quite handy to indicate the types returned from loader and actions. It's also going to be removed, but the good news is that you can simply copy-paste its implementation and have it locally. You can even restore the remix.env file and put it in there so that it becomes globally available without the need to import it explicitly. So that was it. I hope this video is going to help you to understand better what the migration preparation steps are and help you to migrate your own project. I will be covering the migration from this state to React Router v7 in a future video, so don't forget to subscribe not to miss it. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.